Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations.com. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooks for Life, and in this video we're going to take a closer look at the Crochet Pic-A-Nic Basket made in Lily Sugar and Cream. Now to make this you're going to need Lily Sugar and Cream in 3 colors, warm brown for the basket, and soft ecru and red for the checkerboard lining. You'll need a crochet hook, size US H8 or 5mm, or size needed to obtain gauge, and that's all there is to it. We're going to take a closer look at the front and back post stitching that we use to create the basket weave pattern on the outside of the basket. We're going to take a closer look at single crochet color work, which we use to create the lining of the basket. And at the very end, we're going to have a little refresher on how to make the reverse single crochet or crab stitch, which is used for the edging of the basket. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to begin by making the basket sides, and we're going to make 4 of those. So with A, which is the warm brown, we're going to chain 37, double crochet in 4th chain from hook, which counts as 2 double crochet in each chain to the end, and turn. That's 35 double crochet, which I have here. And then we're going to start the second row. So it's we've turned at the end of the first row. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and it says counts as half double crochet. So this chain 2 counts as a half double crochet, so this stitch is already full. DCFP, that's double crochet front post around each of next 3 double crochet. So let's take a look and see how that looks. We're going to yarn over, so it's just like we're making a regular double, but instead of putting it in here like we normally would, we're wrapping around the post of the stitch. So down before the stitch, up after the stitch, yarn over, draw through the stitch, yarn over, draw through 2 loops on hook twice, just like a regular double crochet. Now when I do the next one, yarn over, and I'm going to work around the post of the next stitch. I'm going to go down where I came up on the last one, and then up after the throat of the next stitch. So that's 2, 3, 4. So this is how this looks on the front, and then on the back, I'm trying to angle it so you can see the better light. You can see the tops of those stitches because I did not work in the tops of the stitches. I worked around the post. Now the next instruction on the next page says double crochet back post around each of the 3 next double crochet of the next 3 double crochet, and repeat from start to the last 4. Double crochet front post, half double crochet in the last stitch. So we did our front posts. Now we're going to do the back post. Now it is the same mechanic. We are working around the throat of the stitch and not in the stitch, but instead of bringing the hook to the front of the work, you're going to bring it behind. So I did my yarn over, and I'm going behind the work. So up and then down. I'm going to yarn over, pull it through the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 twice. Now same thing, I'm going up where I went down, and then down around the next one. 1. Yarn over around the throat of the next stitch, not in the next stitch. Okay, so here is my 3 fronts, 1, 2, 3, and my 3 backs, 1, 2, 3. And this is, let's see, this is a right side row. So we're going to work that all the way across. Front post, front post, front post, then back post, back post, back post. Till the end, we'll have 3 front posts and a half double crochet in the last stitch. So I've finished the second row, and now we're going to do the third row. So I've turned the work and I've chained 2, and it says double crochet back post around each of next 3 stitches. So these are already post stitches, so it's really easy to see where you're going. You're working around the posts of the post stitches that already exist. Now this will not always be the case. Sometimes you're working around post stitches like we are here, and sometimes when the stitch pattern moves to give the basket weave texture that we're looking for, sometimes you are working in regular stitches like we did in the first row. Done double crochet front post around each of next 3. So we're back to the front post. And we're going to work this all the way across to the end, following the written instructions, and we're going to end it with a half double. So you can see our post stitches are growing longer. So the 4th row is where the staggering of the basket weave post stitches happens. And because we're looking at the text for 4th row, and it says same as 3rd row. So 3rd row, of course, chain 2 as our half double crochet, back post around each of next 3 stitches. So in this case, you're not laying the stitches on top of where they already were. We're putting a back post in what had looked like a front post. Technically it's the back, it was a back post in the other row. So you're putting a back post in a back post. But don't let the words mess you up. What you're trying to do here is get the post, the blocks of 3 post stitches to stagger to give you the basket weave pattern that we're seeing. So now it says double crochet front post around each of next 3. So again, the post is way back here. So again, you can see the basket weave starting to jump up because here was our post stitches before, and now they have moved between the other post stitches, and this is what gives you the basket weave pattern that we're going to use for the outside of the basket. Now let's take a brief look at the color work. We have a chart and it's all single crochet, so that's really easy to stitch, but there's a couple little tips I want to remind you about for color work, so let's take a look at that. Now I'm working on the lining, and it's just single crochet, and I showed you the chart where it alternate blocks of 4 stitches by 4 rows in both the red and the ecru colors. Just as a little reminder, I am crocheting over the unused color as I go along because I don't want to work with 87 bobbins, and I do not want to have 2,000 ends to weave in at the end. So as I'm stitching along, I'm working over top of the color that I am not using. So I'm stitching in the cream right now, but you can see the red, I'm stitching over it. And always in color work, when you get to the last yarn over of the last stitch of the old color, you work it in the new color, and that is a color work rule. Doesn't matter if you're working singles or doubles or half doubles. Whenever you are to the last yarn over, you work it in the new color. So I'm going to give that a little tug to tighten it up, but I don't want to pull too tight because I do not want the work to crash in widthwise. And of course, I'm not going to make it too loose because then it's going to poke out. So when I get to the 4th stitch in this particular color pattern, I'm going to let the old color go and work that last yarn over in the new color, working over the unused color as I go. The other thing working over that unused color does is it makes the work just a little bit thicker, which for this project in particular is a fine thing because you want the basket lining to be able to stand up on its own. So having that extra yarn in there makes it easy. So in this particular instance, I have finished, this is the 8th row, so I have finished a block. So now instead of beginning the next row with red, I'm going to begin it with the cream because that's what the color chart tells me. So once again, last yarn over in the old color is the new color. I'm going to chain 1 to turn with my new color. And then once again, I'm just going to bring this unused color up and crochet over it so it's available to me when I want to do the next color change. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now here we go. Now you may have noticed that I have brought the old color towards me. It is not knitting. You do not have to twist the yarn to make it not unravel. I do that just to keep it out of my way and to make sure that I know where it is. But that is a habit on my part, and that is not a mandatory rule. So that's all there is to the lining. So we're going to make 4 of those, and we have made 4 of the basket weave panels, and then we have made the lining base, just one of those, which is the bottom, and that does have a pattern in it. And we have made a basket base, which is just single crochet, that does not have a pattern in it. So the next thing we're going to do is line all these pieces up and crochet them together. And I want to make a specific point about the assembly. Here's one. Read the instructions. I know that sounds like I'm being obnoxious, but it's very easy to look at all the pieces and go, I know how this goes, and stitch it all together, and then you may have to rearrange things later. The specific point I want to make is that the basket sides, which are the brown pieces, are joined with wrong sides together. So you can see the seam on the right side. The seam comes out. When you get to the lining sides, you are joining them with right sides together, and we will not be looking at the seam. That's going to be hidden when you get one inside the other. So wrong sides together for the basket, right sides together with the lining, and then you're going to join the base to the lining, and the basket to the lining is what we're going to look at now. So basically you have your basket pieces here all joined together, and you have your lining pieces here all joined together, and you're going to put the lining pieces inside the basket pieces. So what you essentially have is a box inside a box, and then we're going to do the edging at the top. So let's take a look at this joining. So I have my lining inside my basket, and I'm reading the instructions, and it says place lining inside basket, making sure all corners are aligned properly and the top edges are even. With right side of lining facing you, so the lining, I'm looking at the lining, I'm looking at the inside of the bag. The inside of the basket is towards me, and I'm working around in a circle. I'm going to join to any single crochet, with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to single crochet all the way around, making sure I go through all 4 legs of the stitches. So I'm going under 2 legs of the stitch in the lining and 2 legs of the stitch in the basket. So under 2 here and under 2 here. This is going to make a neat, sturdy top edge. And I'm going to do that all the way around. To the very beginning, and that's a round, so I'm going to join the round with a slip stitch in the first single crochet. And just put a couple more in here. Because the other thing I want to talk about is we're going to put on a row of reverse single crochet, which is also known as the crab stitch. So here's our nice single that looks all nice and neat on top of the lining. Obviously my piece is flat and yours is a square, so it can be worked in around. But so I'm coming up to the end of my imaginary round of single crocheting all the pieces together, and I'm going to join the round with a slip stitch in the first single crochet. Now, instead of continuing on in the same direction, I'm going to turn the work. So now the right side of the work is facing me, the basket side is facing me, and I'm going to work 1 round of reverse single crochet, or sometimes we call that the crab stitch. So instead of working right to left, as you normally would if you're right-handed, we're going to work left to right. So I'm putting the single crochet in the stitch before the one I have just worked in. So through the two legs of the stitch, yarn over and pull it up, finish the single. The stitch before. You don't want to change the orientation of your hook, or else you're just doing a single crochet in the opposite direction. You keep your hook oriented in the direction it normally would be in the stitch before, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. And that is just a little refresher on the reverse single crochet, also known as the crab stitch, and it gives this nice corded edging up here. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us for the Crochet Pic-A-Nic Basket. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life. Be sure to subscribe by clicking the red box in the description box below to get fresh new tutorials weekly on crocheting and knitting and all kinds of other yarny crafts. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.